Hello friends, welcome to Dungeons & Dragonfly, where I adapt various characters for use in D&D. I am that Dragonfly, Dragonfly9078, and today I'll be building Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So a bit of background. After his mother died and his father left with the other men of their village to fight against the Fire Nation, Sokka was left as the only warrior in the Southern Water Tribe. While on a fishing trip with his sister Katara, the two of them discovered the new Avatar, an airbender named Aang. Together, the three of them left the South Pole and defeated the Fire Nation, ending the Hundred-Year War. Unlike his sister and Aang, Sokka is not a bender, meaning that he relies on weapons to fight rather than on freaky water magic. He's also highly intelligent, helping to invent both the hot air balloon and the submarine at the age of 15. So what do we want from this build? Well, we need to have a big brain. Sokka's the idea guy, the one who determines the schedule and the route for the group. He's also a skilled strategist and inventor. Despite his young age, Sokka is also proficient with a wide variety of weapons, the most iconic of which is his boomerang. He's able to throw it with incredible accuracy, and it proves incredibly useful over the course of their journey. When his boomerang isn't enough, Sokka learns how to use a sword from Master Piandao, the greatest swordsman in Fire Nation history. Sokka's a quick study and picks up swordsmanship within just a few days. Looking over at ability scores, Sokka's very well-rounded. I tried to use the standard point array, but however I arranged the stats it never really felt right dumping any of them, so I decided to do a point buy instead. If you're rolling for stats, make sure to keep your dexterity and wisdom up for multiclassing. We'll start off with an 11 in strength. Sokka may grab a tree branch and do some chin touches every now and then, but he's not exactly buff. Dexterity will be 13. Boomerang is a ranged weapon, and Sokka has fantastic accuracy with it. Then we'll make Constitution 11. He's in pretty good shape for a 15-year-old, but poisons and intoxicants are resisted by Constitution, and well...
Okay.
Friendly mushroom! Mushy giant friend!
Sokka's greatest gift is his intelligence. As I said before, he's the idea guy, and he absorbs new information incredibly quickly, which pairs nicely with his great intuition. Despite what Katara and Aang may think, Sokka's instincts are on point more often than not, and he's a capable tracker. Finally, we'll make Charisma an 11. Sokka has some self-esteem and confidence issues, stemming from traveling around with three of the most powerful benders in the world, but he also has two romantic relationships during the series, with multiple other women expressing interest in him as well. Sokka's a human, and in a rare departure, I've chosen to make him a baseline non-variant human. One of Sokka's struggles is that he sees himself as
just the guy in the group who's regular.
So I felt it fitting to have him start without a feat. Humans don't start with any skills or special racial abilities, but they do get +1 to all their ability scores, further solidifying Sokka as a well-rounded character. As a member of the Water Tribe, Sokka grew up on and around the sea, learning to navigate and read maps. The sailor background gives proficiency in athletics and perception, as well as with navigator's tools and water vehicles. We'll start off as a fighter. First level fighters get proficiency in 2 skills from the fighter list. I would go with Insight and Survival. They also get Second Wind, letting them heal 1d10 plus their fighter level HP as a bonus action once per rest, as well as a fighting style. My personal favorite fighting style is Mariner, which is another way to say sailor, which Sokka is, so let's go with that. While Sokka isn't wearing heavy armor or using a shield, he gets +1 to his AC and a swimming and climbing speed equal to his walking speed. Sokka does wear armor from time to time, but I would argue that the heaviest he ever puts on is half plate, which counts as medium armor, so we're set. Second level fighters get Action Surge, letting them take a second action on their turn once per rest. Keep in mind that this doesn't let you take another bonus action and only lets you move further if you use it to dash. Sokka has to be a tricky and inventive fighter to keep up with the blatant sorcery that the rest of his party performs, so we'll make him a Battle Master. As a Battle Master, we get 4 superiority dice, which are d8s that we can use for various tricky maneuvers and that refresh on a short rest. At 3rd level, we get 3 maneuvers. Trip Attack lets you add a superiority die to the damage of a weapon you hit with, and if the target is large or smaller, it has to make a strength save or be knocked prone. Disarming Attack works exactly the same, but if the target fails the strength save, it drops whatever it was holding instead of falling prone. And Snipe lets you expend a superiority die to make a ranged weapon attack as a bonus action, adding the die to the damage if you hit. Do note that Trip Attack and Disarming Attack don't require a melee weapon attack, so you can use both of them with your boomerang. 3rd level Battle Masters are also Students of War, giving them proficiency with 1 set of Artisan's tools. Sokka actually helps Master Piandao forge his signature space sword, so Smith's tools seems to be appropriate. 4th level fighters get the first of several ability score improvements, and the Practiced Expert feat will give us +1 to any ability score, proficiency with one skill or tool, and also makes one of our existing proficiencies an expertise. Sokka is an expert tracker, able to read the flow of a battle and track city finds in unfamiliar terrain. So to reflect that, we'll round off our wisdom to 14, take proficiency in investigation, and make our survival into an expertise. At 5th level, we get extra attack, letting us make 2 attacks using the attack action instead of 1. Our maneuvers are applied to individual attacks, so we can trip attack someone and then attack while they're prone to get advantage. For our second ability score improvement, we'll grab another feat to keep us competitive with the elemental wizards that are our friends, enemies, and little sisters. Mage Slayer makes us better in melee against spellcasters, letting us make a melee attack as a reaction when a creature within 5 feet of us casts a spell. It also gives us advantage on saves against spells cast by creatures within 5 feet of us, and disadvantage on concentration saves to creatures that we hit. That reaction attack does not count as an attack of opportunity, by the way, just in case we get something later on that cares about opportunity attacks. 7th level Battlemasters get to know their enemy, letting us study a creature for a minute outside of combat to learn if they are higher than us, lower than us, or equal to us in our choice of 2 of a handful of aspects. We also get a 5th superiority die and 2 more maneuvers. Parry is a little more defensive, letting us use a superiority die as a reaction to reduce the damage from a melee attack that hits us by our dexterity modifier plus the die roll, and Studious Eye lets us add a superiority die to the result of an insight or investigation check that we make. At 8th level, we get another ability score improvement, and I promise we're actually going to improve our ability scores with the next couple of these. Boomerang is great, but we do also use clubs and spears and swords and such, so we're going to bump our strength up to 14. 9th level fighters get 1 use of Indomitable, letting us reroll 1 saving throw that we fail between long rests. A lot of fire blasts are dexterity saves, so this should keep us from getting burned too often. At 10th level, our superiority dice become even more superior, bumping up to d10s. We'll also get our last 2 maneuvers for this build. Riposte lets us use our reaction to make a melee attack against a creature that misses us with their own melee attack, adding a die to the damage. And Distracting Strike lets us add our superiority die to the damage of a weapon attack we hit with, and really ups the teamwork aspect of our team by giving advantage to the next attack against the same target that is made by someone other than us. Again, the riposte reaction is not an attack of opportunity on the off chance that becomes relevant. 11th level fighters get a second extra attack, letting us attack 3 times using the attack action, or 6 times with action surge, or 7 times with action surge and snipe. Fighters really do get a lot of attacks. It almost makes you forget that we can't manipulate the forces of nature to do our bidding. Our last fighter level is another ability score improvement, and this time we'll take +2 to our dexterity, making it 16. Dexterity is more important to us than strength is, because we're about to take some monk levels, yay! First level monks get martial arts, letting us use our dexterity instead of our strength for our unarmed strikes in monk weapons, both of which can also use d4s for their damage dice. Furthermore, if we take the attack action and only use monk weapons or unarmed strikes during it, we can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. The downside, of course, is that we can't wear armor for any of this to work. Luckily, Sokka usually doesn't wear armor, letting us use the monk's unarmored defense, making our AC 10 plus our dexterity modifier plus our wisdom modifier. Fun fact, wearing no armor also counts as not wearing heavy armor, so we still get the benefits of our mariner fighting style. While unarmored, we also get the benefits of unarmored movement, which we get at 2nd level and which increases our speed by 10 feet. This increases our base movement, so it also increases the climbing and swimming speeds that we get from mariner. 2nd level monks also get Ki, a pool of points that we can use for various tricky maneuvers and that refresh on a short rest. Step of the Wind lets us disengage or dash as a bonus action and doubles our jump distance for the rest of the turn. Patient Defense lets us dodge as a bonus action, and Flurry of Blows lets us make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action after taking the attack action with monk weapons or unarmed strikes. There's also Distant Eye, letting us ignore the disadvantage we would normally get for attacking at long range. Sokka studied under Master Piandao, who is about as kensei-ish as it's possible to be. We can choose a melee weapon and a ranged weapon to become our kensei weapons, so let's take a quick minute to actually talk about his weapons. 5th edition doesn't really have stats for boomerangs. Now, we could probably just use the stats for, say, a light hammer, but we can do better, I think. In Princes of the Apocalypse, there is a magic item called the Storm Boomerang. It's a simple ranged weapon that can deal thunder damage and stun a target, but has to be recharged afterwards. I'll be using the stats for this weapon for Sokka's boomerang, ignoring the thunder damage and the stunning, of course. The boomerang is a simple ranged weapon that has a short range of 60 feet and a long range of 120 feet, and any creature proficient with a javelin is proficient with it. It deals 1d4 bludgeoning damage on a hit, and if it misses, it returns to the thrower's hand. The problem, of course, is that it doesn't return on a hit. That's where Sokka's Space Sword comes in. Stat-wise, there's nothing unusual about the Space Sword. It's pretty clearly a longsword, so it uses the longsword stats. But we have seen the Space Sword cut through solid steel like butter, so I would suggest making the Space Sword an adamantine longsword. Adamantine is an ultra-hard material found in meteorites, and makes any hit the weapon deals to an object into a critical hit. This is a really long-winded way to say that Sokka's kensei weapons are going to be the boomerang and the longsword. Kensei weapons count as monk weapons, letting us use dexterity for them while we're unarmored. We can also use agile parry to add 2 to our AC for a turn if we make an unarmed strike while holding our sword, and kensei shot lets us add 1d4 to the damage of our boomerang as a bonus action. Piandao taught Sokka the way of the brush, giving him proficiency with either calligraphy or painting supplies. We actually see Piandao teaching him both in the show, so it really doesn't matter, pick your favorite. Third level monks can also deflect missiles, reducing the damage from a ranged attack by 1d10 plus our monk level plus our dexterity modifier. If we reduce the damage to 0, we can catch the missile and throw it back using our martial arts die for the damage. We'll bump our intelligence to 18 with our next ability score improvement. There's no real mechanical benefit to doing this, but Sokka's defining trait is his intelligence, so I want it to be high. If you want better attacks, damage, or AC, increase dexterity instead. We'll also learn how to slow our falls, reducing falling damage by 5 times our monk level. At 5th level, our martial arts die increases to a d6. We'll still use the normal damage die for our longsword, but this is a nice boost to our boomerang. Normally, we would get extra attack at this level, but it doesn't stack with our extra attacks from Fighter. We do, however, get Stunning Strike, letting us force a Constitution save with a melee attack, stunning the target on a fail. At 6th level, both our unarmed strikes and our kensei weapons count as magical for overcoming resistances. Our unarmored movement also increases to 15 feet, and we can use Deft Strike to deal extra damage equal to our martial arts die with our kensei weapons once per turn. 7th level monks get Evasion, letting us take no damage when we pass a dex save and half damage on a fail. Combine this with Indomitable from Fighter, and you should be able to avoid most Fire Blasts pretty easily. They also get Stillness of Mind, so we can stop being frightened or charmed as an action. We'll finish off this build by completing our training with Master Piandao and taking the Blade Mastery feat. As a Master Swordsman, we get +1 to attack rolls with our sword, and advantage on attacks of opportunity using our sword. Remember, this only applies to attacks of opportunity, not to other attacks that use our reaction like Mage Slayer or Riposte. Finally, we can use our reaction on our own turn to assume a parrying stance, increasing our AC by 1 until our next turn, or until we let go of our sword. Now that the build is complete, the question becomes, how good is it? Well, we have a lot of options during combat. Between stunning, disarming, distracting, and tripping, we have a variety of ways to mess with our opponents. We're also pretty annoying to hit, with 2 ways to increase our AC during combat, and the option to wear heavier armor to increase it further. Not to mention Evasion and Indomitable to ward off troublesome saving throws, and deflect missiles and parry to reduce incoming damage. And finally, we just don't have any real weaknesses. Between the point buy and the baseline human getting +1 to all of our ability scores, our lowest stats are 12s in Charisma and Constitution. On the other hand, wearing armor does increase our AC, but it turns off our martial arts and our unarmored movement. Also, all those options during combat, in addition to competing for our reaction and bonus action, are resource dependent, meaning we can easily run out. And finally, it's flavorful, but the investment in intelligence doesn't have any mechanical benefit, so we're less effective than we would be if we'd invested in dexterity or even wisdom. But that's okay. We may be the guy in the group who's regular, but none of our friends see us that way, and one of them is the Avatar. Did any of them take out Combustion Man with a single blow after calculating his position from the angle of his attacks while hiding behind a pillar? No. Use your superior smarts to direct them on the battlefield, and maybe crack some Fire Nation skulls along the way. You'd like that. You'd really like that. I hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any feedback or suggestions of characters to build, please leave them in the comments below. I do have a backlog of characters to get through, but I don't have a specific order to them, so if I get an interesting suggestion, there's no reason I couldn't do it sooner. Thank you for watching, friends, and I will see y'all later.